I'm so happy you're here with me today because we're about to explore a topic that can really change the way you think about success, not only in English learning, but in every area of life. The topic is simple, but also powerful. Why your mindset is more important than your talent. Let me begin with a question for you. Have you ever met someone who was really talented? Maybe they were amazing at playing the guitar. Maybe they were a natural at sports. Or maybe they just seemed to pick up languages very quickly. At first, you probably thought, wow, they are going to go so far with that talent. But then, over time, you noticed something strange. Even though they had this natural ability, they didn't really grow, they didn't keep improving, and sometimes they even gave up. Have you ever seen that? I think most of us have. It's a little shocking, isn't it? Because we expect talent to guarantee success. But the truth is, it doesn't. Now let's think about the opposite situation. Maybe you've known someone who wasn't very talented at first. They didn't seem gifted or special in any way. But what they did have was a strong mindset. They believed they could get better. They kept practicing. They stayed consistent. And little by little, they improved. And in the end, they often went further than the naturally talented person who gave up too early. When we see that happen, it reminds us of something very important. Talent can open the door, but only mindset keeps you walking through it. This is why today, in this episode, I want us to go deep into this idea of mindset being more important than talent. Talent is like a seed. It has potential. But mindset? Mindset is like the soil, the water, and the sunlight. Without the right mindset, the seed of talent simply won't grow. And here's the best part. Unlike talent, which is something you're born with, mindset is something you can build, shape, and strengthen over time. As we go through this episode together, I want you to reflect on your own life. Think about the areas where you might have been relying only on talent. Maybe you thought, if I'm not naturally good at this, I'll never succeed. Or maybe you believed the opposite. I'm talented, so I don't need to work as hard as others. Both of these beliefs can limit you. The truth is, what matters most is how you think, how you respond to challenges, and how you keep going even when things are tough. That is mindset. So, as we begin, I want you to carry one simple but powerful idea in your mind. Your mindset can take you further than talent ever will. Talent is a gift, yes, but mindset is a choice. And the choices you make every day will shape your future more than any natural ability you were born with. Defining mindset versus talent. When we talk about talent and mindset, it's important to first slow down and really understand what these two words mean. People often mix them up or think they are the same, but they are actually very different. And understanding this difference can completely change how you look at yourself and your future. So, let's start with talent. What is talent? Talent is something you are naturally good at. It's an ability that you don't really have to work for. For example, some people are born with a natural talent for music. They can hear a song once and immediately play it back on the piano. Others are talented in sports. They seem to run faster, jump higher, or coordinate their movements more easily than most people. Maybe you've seen a child who can draw pictures beautifully without ever having taken a class. That is talent. Something that comes easily. Something that feels almost like a gift you didn't ask for, but received anyway. Now, let's think about mindset. Mindset is not about what you can do easily. Instead, it's about how you think and how you approach challenges. Your mindset is your attitude, your beliefs, and the story you tell yourself about what's possible. For example, if you believe that you can grow, that you can learn, and that you can improve with effort, then you have what's often called a growth mindset. But if you believe that your abilities are fixed, that you're either good at something or you're not, then that's called a fixed mindset. Which one do you think will help you more in the long run? Here's a simple way to see the difference. Imagine talent as a seed. A seed has the potential to grow into something beautiful. Maybe a flower, maybe a strong tree. But a seed alone is not enough. If you put it on the table and leave it there, it will never grow. It needs soil, it needs water, and it needs sunlight. Without those things, the seed just stays a seed. Now, think of mindset as the soil, the water, and the sunlight. Mindset creates the right conditions for talent to grow. Without mindset, talent doesn't really go anywhere. But with the right mindset, even a very small seed can grow into something much bigger than you ever expected. Let me give you another example that might feel closer to your own life. Think about learning English. Some people might have a talent for languages. They pick up new words quickly, they copy accents easily, and they seem to learn faster. But what happens if that talented learner has a poor mindset? Maybe they're lazy, maybe they don't practice, or maybe they give up as soon as they make a mistake. In the end, their talent doesn't take them very far. On the other hand, think about someone who doesn't feel naturally talented in languages. Maybe they struggle with grammar. Maybe pronunciation feels hard for them. But their mindset is strong. They believe they can improve. They practice every day. And they keep going even when they feel frustrated. Over time, this person will probably become more fluent than the person who relied only on talent. And here's another way to think about it. Talent is like a good engine in a car. If you have a powerful engine, your car has potential to go very fast. But mindset is like the driver. You can have the best engine in the world, but if the driver is careless, doesn't pay attention, or refuses to learn the road, that car isn't going anywhere. On the other hand, even if the engine isn't the best, a careful, determined driver can still go far, slowly but surely, and eventually reach the destination. Now, I'd like you to stop and reflect for a moment. In your own life, what do you usually rely on more, talent or mindset? Have you ever thought, I'm just not good at this, so I won't even try? Or maybe you believed, I'm naturally good at this, so I don't need to put in much effort. Both of these thoughts can be dangerous because they ignore the power of mindset. If you rely only on talent, you may stop growing. If you believe you have no talent, you may stop trying. But with the right mindset, you can keep moving forward, no matter where you start. So, remember this. Talent is what you have, but mindset is how you use it. Talent is passive. Mindset is active. Talent gives you a starting point, but mindset decides how far you will go. And unlike talent, which is something you cannot completely control, mindset is in your hands. You can shape it, you can strengthen it, and you can change it every single day. Why talent alone isn't enough. When we think about success, it's very easy to believe that talent is all we need. After all, society often celebrates talent. We admire singers with incredible voices, athletes with unbelievable skills, or students who always seem to get the highest grades without studying much. From the outside, it looks like talent is the magic key that opens every door. But the truth is, talent by itself is never enough. Without the right mindset, even the most talented person can struggle, give up, or fail to reach their potential. Let's take athletes as an example. In almost every sport, there are young players who show amazing ability from a very early age. They seem unstoppable. Coaches notice them, fans cheer for them, and people say, "This one is going to be a star." But what often happens? Some of these athletes stop training seriously. Maybe they think their natural talent will carry them through. Maybe they lose focus, Or maybe they don't know how to deal with setbacks like injuries or competition. And before long, their careers stop before they ever really begin. At the same time, there are athletes who may not be as naturally gifted, but they train every day. They listen to advice, and they refuse to give up. In the long run, these players often become the true champions. Talent gave one player a head start, but mindset allowed the other to cross the finish line. Music is another clear example. Think of a person with a beautiful singing voice. At first, everyone is impressed, but singing well in the beginning is not enough to succeed as a musician. You need practice, discipline, and emotional strength to perform in front of people, to handle criticism, and to keep creating even when you don't feel inspired. Many talented singers quit because they can't handle the pressure, or because they don't develop the discipline to practice regularly. On the other hand, there are musicians who maybe didn't start with the most amazing voice, but they trained it, they worked hard on their technique, and they built the courage to perform again and again. In the end, their careers often last longer because their mindset kept them moving when talent alone would not. The same thing happens in education. You might have met students who are very smart. They understand concepts quickly, they don't seem to study much, and they can still pass their exams. But here's the problem. When something becomes difficult, they often panic or give up because they are not used to struggling. Their talent carried them so far, but it didn't prepare them for real challenges. Meanwhile, there are students who may need more time to learn, who might even fail the first time. But because they keep trying, because they stay consistent, they end up mastering the subject. Their mindset teaches them how to deal with difficulty, and that is a much more powerful skill than simply being naturally gifted. So what stops talented people from reaching success? Usually, it's not the lack of ability, it's something inside. Fear of failure is one of the biggest obstacles. Some people are so afraid of making mistakes that they never take risks. They would rather stay in their comfort zone than test their limits. Then there's self-doubt. Even talented people sometimes don't believe in themselves, and this doubt keeps them from going after opportunities. And finally, there's perfectionism. This may sound like a good thing, but it's not. Perfectionism makes people expect everything to be flawless. And when things aren't perfect, they feel disappointed, frustrated, or even ashamed. In the end, they stop trying altogether. Now think about yourself. Have you ever given up on something because you were afraid of failing? Or have you ever avoided starting something because you thought you weren't talented enough? These are mindset problems, not talent problems. Success doesn't come to the person with the most natural ability. It comes to the person who can overcome fear, doubt, and the need for perfection. And that requires mindset, not talent. So the lesson here is clear. Talent can give you an advantage, but it cannot carry you all the way. If talent is a starting point, mindset is the fuel that keeps you going when things get hard. And life will get hard. You will face setbacks, you will face criticism, and you will face moments of frustration. Talent cannot help you in those moments, but mindset can. The power of mindset in action. Now that we've seen why talent alone isn't enough, let's look more closely at how mindset actually works in real life. It's one thing to say, mindset is powerful, but it's another thing to really understand how it helps people move through challenges, face setbacks, and keep growing even when things don't go as planned. The truth is, setbacks are a natural part of life. Nobody succeeds on the first try at everything. But here's the key difference. People with a fixed mindset often see setbacks as proof that they are not good enough, while people with a growth mindset see setbacks as opportunities to learn and get better. Imagine failing an exam. With a fixed mindset, You might say to yourself, I'm just not smart. I'll never understand this. But with a growth mindset, you could say, this is hard, yes, but I can try a new strategy. I can ask for help, and I can improve. That small difference in how you think changes everything about what happens next. Let's take a famous example from history. Thomas Edison, the inventor of the light bulb. Many people know his invention, but fewer people know how many times he failed before he succeeded. Some say he tried over 1,000 experiments before finally finding a solution that worked. Imagine failing 1,000 times. Wouldn't most people give up long before reaching that point? Edison didn't see failure as proof that he was not talented enough. Instead, he saw every failure as one step closer to success. He once said, I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. That is mindset in action. His natural intelligence and skills were important, but without his mindset, he would never have kept going long enough to achieve something that changed the world. Another powerful story is that of J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter books. Today, her name is known everywhere, but her journey was not easy. Before publishing her first book, she faced many rejections from publishers. Some told her the book was too long. Others thought the story would not sell. She was also struggling in her personal life, raising a child alone and dealing with financial difficulties. A person with a fixed mindset might have thought, this is too hard. Maybe my writing is not good enough. But Rowling kept going. She believed in her story. She believed in her ability to improve and to find someone who would give her a chance. Her persistence, her mindset, is what turned rejection into one of the most successful book series of all time. But mindset is not only about famous inventors or writers. It is also about you and me in our everyday lives. Think about learning English. Many learners start strong, but when they face difficulties, like not understanding a native speaker or forgetting words in conversation, they feel embarrassed and want to quit. That's a fixed mindset reaction. I'm just not good at languages. But learners with a growth mindset react differently. They say, this conversation was difficult, but I'll keep practicing. Next time, I'll be a little better. And slowly, with this mindset, they really do improve. Public speaking is another example. So many people are terrified of speaking in front of others. Maybe you've experienced that fear too. The shaking hands, the racing heart, the fear of forgetting your words. With a fixed mindset, people think, I'm not a good speaker. I'll always be bad at this. And as a result, they avoid speaking opportunities. But with a growth mindset, someone might say, I was nervous this time, but if I practice, if I prepare, and if I keep trying, I'll improve. And they do. Each time gets a little easier. Their confidence grows not because they were naturally talented, but because their mindset allowed them to face fear instead of running away from it. I want you to stop for a moment and think about your own challenges. What is something you have given up on because you thought you were not talented enough? Maybe it was drawing. Maybe it was sports. Maybe it was even English. Now imagine if you had continued, not with the belief that you had to be perfect, but with the belief that you could improve step by step. How different would the outcome have been? This is the real power of mindset. It doesn't magically make everything easy. It doesn't erase difficulties. What it does is give you the strength to keep moving forward, to see every failure as feedback, and to believe that growth is always possible. Talent can give you a head start, but mindset keeps you in the race when things get tough. So whenever you face a challenge, ask yourself, am I reacting with a fixed mindset or a growth mindset? And more importantly, how can I shift my thinking so that I see this difficulty as an opportunity to grow, rather than a reason to quit? That small shift can make the biggest difference, not only in learning English, but in every part of your life. Consistency beats talent. If there is one lesson I wish everyone could learn early in life, it is this: consistency beats talent. What do I mean by that? It means that showing up every day, practicing regularly, and putting in steady effort often leads to greater success than simply relying on natural ability. Talent may give you a strong beginning, but consistency decides whether you reach the finish line. Let's think about students for a moment. Imagine two learners in the same classroom. The first student is very talented. English comes easily to them. They understand grammar quickly, they can remember vocabulary without much effort, and they often impress the teacher. But there's one problem. This student doesn't study much. They think, "Why should I? I'm already good at this." On the other side, there's another student who doesn't seem naturally gifted. Learning English is hard for them. They make mistakes, they forget words, and sometimes they feel frustrated. But this second student has something the first one doesn't: consistency. Every day, they study for a little while. Every week, they practice speaking, even if they feel shy. They don't stop. Now ask yourself, who will be more fluent in 2 or 3 years? The answer is almost always the consistent student. Talent gives you a head start, but consistency keeps you moving forward long after talent alone has stopped. There's an old saying you may have heard before: slow and steady wins the race. This comes from a very famous story, The Tortoise and the Hare. In this story, the hare, which is a fast rabbit, challenges the slow tortoise to a race. Everyone believes the hare will win easily because of his natural speed. And at the beginning, the hare runs far ahead. But because he is so confident in his talent, he decides to take a nap in the middle of the race. Meanwhile, the tortoise keeps moving slowly but steadily, never stopping, never giving up. In the end, the tortoise crosses the finish line first, and the hare loses. This story may sound simple, but it carries a powerful message. Consistency, not speed or talent, is what leads to success. We can see the same idea in many areas of life. In fitness, for example, some people are naturally strong or athletic. They can lift heavy weights without much training. But if they stop exercising, their strength disappears quickly. On the other hand, someone who begins weak but trains regularly, 3 times a week, every week, slowly builds strength. Over time, they may even become stronger than the naturally gifted person who quit. Consistency multiplies small efforts into big results. The same is true in creative work. Writers, for example, don't finish books in one day. They finish them by writing a little bit every day, even when they don't feel inspired. Musicians don't become experts overnight. They improve because they practice their instrument for years, often repeating the same scales and exercises until their skills become second nature. These examples show us that the real secret to mastery is not sudden brilliance, but patient repetition. Now, let's return to English learning, because it's probably the most relevant example for you, my listener. Maybe you think, I don't have a talent for languages. But here's the truth. If you practice a little bit every day, reading a short article, listening to a podcast, writing a few sentences, or having a small conversation, you will make progress. Maybe it will feel slow at first, but imagine doing that for 6 months, 1 year, or even 2 years. Your level of English will be much higher than someone who only studies once in a while, even if that person seems talented. Why? Because language learning is like building a wall. Every day, you add one small brick. One brick alone doesn't look like much, but after enough time, you have built something strong and lasting. Here's a question for you. Would you rather be someone who starts fast but burns out quickly, or someone who moves slowly but never stops? The world is full of people who started with great energy, talent, or excitement, but quit halfway. Meanwhile, the people who keep showing up, day after day, often reach goals that once looked impossible. So, the next time you feel discouraged, remember this. Your progress is not about how fast you move, but about how steady you are. Even 5 minutes of practice every day is better than 3 hours of study once a month. Small, regular steps are the real secret to success. Or, as another expression goes, Rome wasn't built in a day. It took time, effort, and consistency. And the same is true for your goals. Talent can make you look impressive for a short time, but consistency makes you successful for a lifetime. Overcoming self-doubt and fear of failure. Self-doubt and fear of failure are some of the most common barriers people face when they want to grow, improve, or try something new. These feelings can be so strong that they stop us before we even begin. Think about the last time you wanted to do something important. Maybe speaking in front of others, applying for a new job, or even starting to learn English. Did you stop yourself? If you did, it was probably not because you lacked talent or ability. It was more likely because you felt afraid of failing or you doubted yourself. This is why mindset is so powerful. It helps us push past hesitation and take that first step. Let's start with self-doubt. Self-doubt is the little voice inside our heads that says, "You are not ready. You are not smart enough. You will make mistakes." Many people listen to that voice and allow it to control their decisions. But the truth is, no one feels 100% ready when they start something new. Every great speaker, writer, athlete, or leader felt self-doubt at some point. The difference is that they did not let it stop them. Their mindset was stronger than their fear. Fear of failure is very similar. When we think about failing, we often imagine the worst outcome. People laughing at us, losing respect, or feeling embarrassed. But if we look closely, failure is not the end. It is simply feedback. It is a way for us to see what went wrong so we can try again in a better way. Imagine a child learning how to ride a bicycle. They fall many times before they finally ride smoothly. If they gave up after the first fall, they would never learn. Adults forget this simple truth and begin to see failure as proof that they are not good enough. But in reality, failure is proof that you are trying. And trying is the only way to succeed. Here's where mindset plays a role. With a fixed mindset, people believe that their abilities are permanent. I'm just not good at this, so I will fail anyway. But with a growth mindset, people believe that abilities can be developed. I may not be good now, but if I practice, I will get better. This belief changes everything. It gives us the courage to face fear, to accept mistakes, and to keep going until we succeed. Let's make this idea more personal. Ask yourself, what stops you from trying? Is it really because you don't have the skill? Or is it because you are afraid to look foolish in front of others? For example, many English learners already know enough vocabulary and grammar to speak, but they hesitate. They think, what if I say the wrong word? What if my accent is strange? What if people laugh? This fear keeps them silent, and because they don't practice, they never improve. In this case, the problem is not skill, it is fear, and the solution is mindset. So, how can mindset help us overcome fear? By changing the way we see mistakes. Instead of thinking, if I fail, I'm not good enough, we can think, if I fail, I will learn something important. Instead of saying, I can't do this, we can say, I can't do this yet, but I will get better. Even this small change in self-talk makes a big difference. It gives us permission to try without the heavy pressure of being perfect. Mindset also helps us take small steps. When the task feels too big, we can start small. If you are afraid of speaking English in front of a group, start by practicing with one friend. If you are afraid of applying for a new job, start by updating your CV. Each small step reduces fear and builds confidence, and each time you face your fear, it becomes weaker. In the end, overcoming self-doubt and fear of failure is not about becoming fearless. It is about choosing courage, even when fear is present. It is about saying, yes, I might fail. Yes, I might make mistakes, but I will try anyway. That decision, made again and again, creates growth and success. So, I will ask you once more, what is truly stopping you? Is it a real lack of ability, or is it the fear of failing? If it is fear, remember that fear cannot control you unless you let it. With the right mindset, you can step forward, learn, grow, and eventually succeed. Practical shifts to build a stronger mindset. When we talk about mindset, it can sometimes sound like a big, abstract idea. But in reality, mindset is built through small, practical choices that we make every single day. It's not about suddenly becoming positive all the time or ignoring problems. It's about shifting the way we think, step by step, so that we can face challenges with more strength and hope. In this part of our conversation, I want to share some simple but powerful shifts you can make to build a stronger mindset. These shifts are not complicated. They are practical tools you can start using right away in your daily life, whether you are learning English, developing your career, or simply trying to improve yourself. The first shift is to focus on progress, not perfection. Perfectionism is one of the biggest traps that holds people back. When you believe that everything must be perfect before you act, you end up never acting at all. You wait until you feel ready, until you have the perfect plan, until you are sure you won't make a mistake. But the truth is, perfection never comes. What matters is progress, the small steps you take toward your goal. Think about learning English. If you wait until you know every single word and rule, you will never speak. But if you focus on progress, like speaking a little more today than you did yesterday, or understanding one extra phrase this week, you will improve steadily. Progress is real. Perfection is an illusion. The second shift is to see mistakes as lessons. This might sound like simple advice, but it is incredibly powerful. Most of us were taught in school that mistakes are bad, something to avoid at all costs. But in life, mistakes are actually the best teachers. Each mistake shows us what does not work, and that knowledge helps us get closer to what does work. Let me give you an example. Thomas Edison, the inventor of the light bulb, is famous for saying he did not fail thousands of times. Instead, he discovered thousands of ways that did not work. Imagine if he had given up after the first mistake. The world might have waited many more years for electric light. In your own life, whether you are practicing English, trying a new sport, or building a business, mistakes are not the end of the journey. They are part of the journey. When you see them as lessons, you free yourself from fear and open yourself to growth. The third shift is to practice gratitude and positive self-talk. Gratitude means appreciating what you already have, instead of only focusing on what you lack. When you practice gratitude, you remind yourself that even if you are not yet where you want to be, you still have strengths, opportunities, and resources. For example, instead of thinking, "I'm terrible at English," you can think, "I may not be fluent yet, but I already know more than I did last year, and I am learning more every day." That small change in perspective keeps you motivated. Positive self-talk works the same way. The words we use with ourselves shape our mindset. If you constantly tell yourself, "I can't," or "I'm not good enough," your brain begins to believe it. But if you say, "I can try," or "I'm learning," you build confidence and courage. This doesn't mean lying to yourself. It means choosing supportive and realistic language that encourages growth instead of shutting it down. Another powerful shift is to surround yourself with the right influences. The people you spend time with, the content you consume, and the environment you place yourself in all shape your mindset. If you are constantly surrounded by negativity, criticism, and doubt, it becomes harder to believe in yourself. But if you choose to spend time with supportive friends, listen to motivational content, or join a community of learners, you create an environment that helps your mindset grow stronger. Just as plants need sunlight and water, your mindset needs encouragement and inspiration. Finally, the most important shift is to be patient and kind with yourself. Building a strong mindset is not about being tough all the time or ignoring your struggles. It is about acknowledging that growth takes time. Too often, people are their own harshest critics. They expect instant results, and when they don't get them, they feel like failures. But growth is not a straight line. It's a journey with ups and downs. Some days you will feel strong and motivated. Other days you might feel tired and doubtful. That's normal. What matters is that you don't give up. If you can be patient with yourself, forgive your mistakes, and keep moving forward, your mindset will naturally become stronger. So, to build a stronger mindset, remember these practical shifts. Focus on progress instead of perfection. Treat mistakes as valuable lessons. Practice gratitude and positive self-talk. Choose your influences wisely, and be patient with yourself. None of these shifts are complicated, but they are powerful. Together, they will slowly change the way you see yourself and the world. And once your mindset changes, your actions will follow. You will begin to try more, grow more, and achieve more. Not because you suddenly discovered hidden talent, but because you chose to think in a way that supports your growth. Now let me ask you, which of these shifts could you start practicing today? Could you let go of perfection and focus on one small step forward? Could you reframe your mistakes and see them as lessons? Could you speak to yourself with kinder, more supportive words? Even one of these changes can make a big difference. And if you keep practicing them, your mindset will become one of your greatest strengths. As we come toward the end of today's episode, I want to invite you to take a moment and turn the conversation inward. This is the part where you reflect on your own life, your own habits, and your own mindset. Think carefully. Where in your life do you rely on talent? Are there areas where you've relied on natural ability to get by without putting in consistent effort? Perhaps it's something like learning a new skill, playing a sport, or even your studies. Reflect honestly, because self-awareness is the first step toward meaningful change. Now, on the other side of the question, where do you feel that you need a stronger mindset? Are there goals or challenges you have been avoiding because fear or self-doubt has held you back? Maybe you've been putting off speaking English in front of others, trying a new hobby, applying for a job, or even starting a personal project. Ask yourself, is it really a lack of talent that's stopping me? Or is it fear, hesitation, or perfectionism? Sometimes the barrier is not skill at all. It's the way we think about ourselves and our abilities. Understanding this difference can be life-changing. Reflection alone is not enough, though. Awareness needs action. So here is a practical suggestion I want you to try this week. Keep a mindset journal. Each day, write down one moment when you noticed fear, self-doubt, or hesitation. Then write down one action you took to push through that feeling, or one small way you could respond differently next time. For example, if you were afraid to speak English in a class or with a friend, write down how you felt and what you said or could say. Over time, you will begin to see patterns in your thinking, and you will notice your mindset improving day by day. A journal is a simple tool, but it has powerful effects because it helps you track progress and stay aware of the choices you are making. Another small action you could take is to try something just outside your comfort zone. This doesn't have to be extreme or scary. Even small steps count. Perhaps you could introduce yourself to someone new, give a short presentation, record yourself speaking English, or try a new recipe you've never cooked before. The important part is to practice stepping into discomfort. Every time you do, you strengthen your mindset, not just your skill. Each small act of courage builds confidence and reinforces the belief that you can handle challenges no matter how difficult they feel at first. I also want to remind you of a key idea we've discussed today. Mindset is more powerful than talent. Talent may give you a head start, but mindset determines whether you cross the finish line. Every time you practice, every time you face a fear, every time you keep going after a setback, you are strengthening your mindset. You are proving to yourself that growth is possible. You are showing yourself that failure is not the end, but a step forward. And this is why the small, consistent actions you take in your daily life are so important. They are the building blocks of long-term success. So, as you reflect this week, take a few moments to answer these questions honestly. Where have I relied too much on talent and not enough on effort? Where has fear or self-doubt prevented me from trying? What is one small action I can take today or this week to strengthen my mindset? Even one small choice, repeated over time, can create a powerful ripple effect in your life. Finally, I encourage you to keep going with curiosity and kindness toward yourself. Don't judge your mistakes or setbacks harshly. Remember that each attempt, no matter how small, is a step forward. Growth is not linear. It is a journey with ups and downs, successes and failures. What matters most is that you keep moving. Keep choosing effort over hesitation, curiosity over fear, and mindset over reliance on talent alone. If you take just one of these reflections seriously and turn it into action this week, you are already beginning to change your life. And when you do, you will start to notice the power of mindset in action. Not tomorrow, not in some distant future, but in the small, daily steps you take today. As we reach the end of today's episode, let's take a moment to reflect on the main message we've been exploring. Mindset is more important than talent. Throughout this conversation, we've seen that talent can give you a head start, but it cannot carry you all the way. Talent might open a few doors, but it is mindset that keeps doors open, pushes you through challenges, and allows you to grow even when the path is difficult. Whether it's learning English, pursuing a new career, or mastering a personal skill, your mindset shapes how you approach obstacles, setbacks, and opportunities. It determines whether you give up when things get tough or keep going, step by step, toward your goals. We've talked about the difference between talent and mindset, and we've explored how mindset shows up in action. We've seen inspiring examples from real life, like Thomas Edison, who kept experimenting despite thousands of failures, or J.K. Rowling, who persisted even after many rejections. We've discussed how everyday learners, athletes, and speakers succeed not only because of their ability, but because of the mindset that keeps them consistent, resilient, and willing to learn. We've also examined practical ways to strengthen mindset, focusing on progress instead of perfection, seeing mistakes as lessons, practicing gratitude, using positive self-talk, and taking small steps outside your comfort zone. All of these habits build the mental strength that allows talent to truly flourish. Another key idea we explored is that self-doubt and fear of failure are natural, but they do not have to control your actions. Mindset teaches us to face hesitation with courage, to reframe mistakes as opportunities, and to understand that growth is a journey, not a destination. Every small choice to try again, every step taken despite fear, adds up to real progress over time. These choices are more powerful than raw ability because they shape how you respond to challenges, not just how you perform when everything is easy. As you think about your own life, reflect on where you may have relied too much on talent and where you could benefit from a stronger mindset. Perhaps there is an area you have been avoiding because of fear or self-doubt. Maybe there is a skill you want to improve, a conversation you've been putting off, or a project you have delayed. This week, consider taking one small step toward that goal. Write in a mindset journal, speak in English to someone new, or simply remind yourself daily that growth comes through effort and learning, not just through talent. And here is the empowering idea I want you to carry with you. Talent is a gift, but mindset is a choice. And that choice can change your life. No matter how naturally talented you are, it is your mindset that decides whether you truly succeed. When you choose a growth mindset, when you focus on consistent effort, when you embrace challenges and learn from setbacks, you open doors that talent alone could never open. You create possibilities that might have seemed impossible before. Thank you for taking the time to listen today. I hope this episode has given you not only new ideas about talent and mindset, but also practical steps to begin strengthening your own mindset right now. Remember, change doesn't happen all at once. It happens in small, intentional actions repeated over time. I invite you to reflect on what we discussed. Take one small action this week, and notice how it feels to choose mindset over hesitation. And most importantly, I look forward to seeing you back for the next episode